Chapter 9, Lecture 6. So, we were still discussing the issue of the family's reactions and the parents' reactions to raising children with special needs. And we are focusing on the issues of children who have various disabilities. So, as we were saying, that the parents experience a grieving and adjustment process which acts as a stressor in the family system. Parents need to mobilize all the resources, financial, logistic, educational, health, and so on, to meet the situation. The grieving and adjustment process can take months and years. Ways must be found to include the child into the family's routines and patterns. Parents must give up and mourn the loss of the child that they may have thought about and accept and love the child whom they do have. Parents must strengthen their committed relationships and their coping strategies. Some families might acquire unhealthy coping strategies, including higher levels of stress and disorganization. For some families, for some parents, it's difficult to overcome the tendency to personalize the circumstance and to gain an acceptance of the child. They may be in ambivalence or rejection. And parental attitudes about an exceptional child influence the nature and quality of caregiving. Mothers become the family member typically who has the greatest caretaking and nurturing of a child, but fathers and other male family members are also expected to be more actively involved in childcare today. When both parents are actively involved in childcare, the family stress diminishes and becomes more controlled when fathers lend active support. The siblings of a child with special needs are also affected by the child's presence. So, in family systems theory, the interrelatedness can be observed. Having a sibling with special needs can bring some benefits to other children, such as gaining empathy, tolerance, compassion, appreciation for health, and so on. On the other hand, siblings often report negative effects such as feeling left out of parental attention, resenting the affected sibling's presence in the family, or shame and guilt about the affected sibling or having negative feelings. Parents should be mindful about these possibilities and how the siblings are being impacted. Girls sometimes complain that brothers are not expected to assume surrogate caregiving roles to a similar extent, so parents can watch out for that gender equal behavior. The cultural background of families also influences parents' reactions and coping with an exceptional child. For example, in white or non religious families, children's disabilities are described and understood in medical and scientific terms. Very religious families or other cultures may attribute the situation to bad luck, to evil influence on the family, as a punishment for sin, or as a test or a challenge provided by God, and so on. Chronic stress is the most frequently observed family reaction to exceptional children, and family members can be supported in learning healthy coping, such as joining support groups, keeping a journal, participating in individual and family therapy, participating in spiritual and religious resources, sharing caretaking, finding time for self renewal, networking with other families, and so on. Unhealthy coping may result in the child with exceptional needs being scapegoated, abused, or emotionally mistreated. So, support systems for families of exceptional children are very important. Families that have a child with special needs tend to be smaller in size than the average family because so many of the parental time and resources are focused on that child. And these families typically make more use of community services and resources in gaining assistance. An important source is a federal legislation called IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that was first enacted in 1975 and then revised several times, including in 2001. IDEA is based on two assumptions. One, that children with special needs have a rightful and appropriate place in the public school system, and that parents also play an important role in the education of a child with special needs. So, this law gives children the right to a free and appropriate education in the public school system. So, children with special needs cannot be rejected or turned away from a school system unless an alternative is found for them that is appropriate and free. And it also recognizes the rights of parents to monitor and assess the appropriateness of the educational experiences that children with special needs receive. Now, this is really important because before this law, children with various diagnoses or issues would be encouraged to leave the school system, or very substandard education would be provided, and parents had no right or no avenue in which to complain or monitor about this. This law provides an IEP, or Individualized Education Plan, for children from the time of entry into school till about age 22 or 25, depending on the situation and the state. So the IEP must include statements regarding the present educational performance of the child, the list of goals and objectives, the specific services and support to be provided, plans for the child's participation in the classroom, and the manners in which the goals and objectives are evaluated. So your book goes into several more details about this, and you can read those if you are interested. However, for the purposes of our learning in this chapter, it's sufficient to know what the IDEA is, how it provides for an IEP for a child, and what benefits this is providing for children with special needs, and what supports this is providing for families of children with special needs. In 2001, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, known as the No Child Left Behind Act, also addresses the needs of exceptional children by supplementing additional legislation. So, this allows school districts to provide programs that increase parental involvement, reallocate financial resources to children with special needs, to qualify children with special needs and disabilities for special education classrooms, and so on. There are 13 categories that provide eligibility for special education. And once again, I encourage you to read these. You're not expected to know them in detail, but they include developmental disabilities such as autism, Down syndrome, cognitive impairment, and so on. The specific ones are autism, deaf and blindness, developmental delay, emotional disability, hearing impairment, intellectual disability, multiple disabilities, orthopedic impairment, other health impairment, which is a catch-all term that includes a variety of conditions that are not mentioned by name, a specific learning disability, speech or language impairment, traumatic brain injury, and visual impairment. Community services are also there that provide assistance for exceptional children and their families, because children need services even before they enter the school system, when the problems are noticed at birth or shortly thereafter. So, infants can be taken into these systems through regular screenings, and children are seen on a regular basis by various healthcare professionals who evaluate the child's development and uh, make diagnoses and point out concerns. Early detection is important because early treatment can alleviate some potential difficulties. So these include community services include child care centers, hospital programs, Head Start programs, public school preschool programs, and programs through colleges and universities. Respite care is an important form of community service for families and individuals with disabilities. As the name implies, this provides temporary relief for caregivers of developmentally disabled individuals who have a very high level of need but who live at home. So, this prevents institutionalization, which is expensive and may not often match the person well, and it provides caregivers with a break in which they can regroup, recuperate, take care of other issues, and so on. It assists families in coping with emergency situations that require the absence of a primary caregiver, and provides relief from daily stresses involving caring for a severely disabled family member. Educational programs that support school-aged children to the maximum extent possible are known as inclusion, formerly known as mainstreaming. Children are included to the greatest extent possible, but not all children may benefit from inclusion. So some may be placed exclusively in special education classes or schools. So inclusion services can be in regular classrooms, in resource room with special consulting teachers, in day schools in a separate schoolroom or building, or residential school, or even a hospital or homebound program. Other services include informational counseling, when this is for the parents and the rest of the family when children are first diagnosed, psychotherapeutic methods such as behavior modification and reflective counseling. It's again for parents and siblings and also to the affected child, and group therapy, which places a number of parents or siblings in a support network in which they share their feelings, reactions, experiences, and information to help each other to cope.